Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. So good to see everyone here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on our agenda is the announcements and presentations. We have a proclamation this evening recognizing the service of William and Maureen Mounts. It is regrettable that Howard Davidson could not be here this evening because he is really the one who came forward, although it could have been so many other people in the community. It just happened to be Mr. Davidson. But so many of us recognize your service, and we want to formalize that. Accordingly, we'd like to note that whereas the municipality of Penn Hills desires to recognize the outstanding contributions of William and Maureen Mounts, and whereas William Mounts has honorably chaired the Penn Hills Community Development Corporation's Beautification Committee for several years, with Maureen's help, planned and supported efforts to develop beautification sites in Penn Hills. And whereas William and Maureen have together contributed an unprecedented amount of hours toward maintaining various sites in Penn Hills, including the Penn Hills CDC sites at Allegheny River Boulevard near Nadine Road and Sandy Creek Road. In addition, William and Maureen also maintain sites at Rodi Road, Frankstown Road, and Salzburg Road. And whereas William and Maureen have expanded their contributions by helping the Rosedale Civic Association with its beautification efforts. And whereas, through their own time and effort, William and Maureen have shown enormous contributions to the municipality of Penn Hills through their volunteer efforts and participation. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mayor and Council of Penn Hills recognize and thank William and Maureen for their dedication, commitment, and outstanding contributions to the municipality of Penn Hills. Penn Hills asks that all citizens recognize these outstanding citizens for their accomplishments and contributions to the Penn Hills community. This is dated today on Monday, September 20th, 2021. Will you please come forward? Any members of council, please come down.
Congratulations.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Calabrese,
Present.
Councilman Petrucci,
Present.
Councilman Getzey,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Present.
Councilman Pecora.
Present.
I'd like to move for the ratification of the expenditures.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion for ratification of the expenditures.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? I'm sorry, just on the, are you commenting on the expenditures? No. Okay, thank you. You're certainly free to, but I thought perhaps that wasn't your point.
No, I had public comment on this topic.
Okay,
That's coming.
that'll be coming soon. Thank you. Any comment from council? Roll call.
Councilman Petrusi?
Yes.
Councilman Getzey?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp?
Yes.
Councilman Pecora?
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese?
Yes,
Item approved.
thank you. Now would be the time for any non-agenda public comment. So Reverend, if you would like to come forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, Reverend Ryan Manners.
I'm sorry, excuse me for one moment.
Yes, ma'am.
If you were stating your name for the record, and please try to hold it to 3 minutes as
Okay.
well.
Yes, sir. Reverend Ryan Manners, I'm the lead pastor at Bridging Rivers Community Alliance Church, and I was here last week, and I submitted a letter as a proposal to come and appear before you, and so I'm very thankful to be here once again. Tonight, I just wanted to kind of expand a little bit more on some of the vision that we have to use the facility and our programs and how we would like to do that. So, last week I mentioned two different facets that we really hope to expand. One is community development, and the other one is obviously a community of faith, because we are a 501c3 church, and so with our community of faith, the way that we seek to expand that is that, you know, we believe that the mission of the church is to make disciples of Jesus Christ and to help people find and to follow Jesus, because he came to seek and to save that which was lost. And so basically, we seek to offer programs that would allow a person to come through all the different facets of discipleship, which would be evangelism, building the believer, equipping them to do the ministry, to serve as a leader in the church, and then also taking them out and teaching them how to serve in the local mission field in that community and around that region. And so we would seek to hope to do that, you know, through the multiplication of small groups that would have a discipleship component embedded into them. And then, you know, the other part of this is that by using a neutral space like that, we really think that it is perfect for what we want to do, because studies have shown that people do not just kind of walk into church buildings anymore. The moral fabric of the culture and the community does not align with the church as much as it used to, and so because of that, we need to take church expressions out to the public space where we can engage people right where they're at. And so that's what we would hope to do with the usage of the space, by offering different kinds of community development organization events that would allow us to use that as a bridge basically to reach people with the gospel of Jesus, you know, by demonstrating the love of Jesus to the community, by giving back, by serving the community, and, you know, and then, you know, being able to rub up against people that might not, you know, be of the community of faith at that point, but hopefully through the light and the love of Jesus Christ, they will get to experience that firsthand. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I just kind of wanted to explain. I don't know whether you have any questions or if there's any part of that you would like me to expand upon more, or.
Reverend,
Yes.
I want to reiterate something to you again.
Yes, sir.
Your backing is from the church on paying for the rent on a monthly. That is true?
Absolutely, yes.
So
Yeah, we're backed by the Western Pennsylvania District of the Christian and Missionary Alliance, and the DEXCOM, which is the District Executive Committee there is fully behind us, you know. And I know, I believe it was you, Deputy Mayor, that brought out a question about my affiliation last week with Allegheny Center Alliance Church. So this governing body is the same governing body that Allegheny Center Alliance Church reports to. It's the same one that's behind me as a church planter, and we report to the same place. So they're the governing body that is fully behind us.
Okay, thank you.
So
Yes, sir.
pardon the pun, if this is a pun, to play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Um,
No, go right
so,
ahead.
I don't have the numbers exact, but in my mind, I'm recalling that something like your revenue was $2,000 or $3,000 a month, but that also includes your pay.
We have about 3,000 to 4,000 a month available to us, but that does not include my pay. My pay is separate from that. So,
Okay.
so I have a family. We have 4 kids, and my wife and I. But we receive income from the district separately for that, and then obviously through tithing and members of the church body, as the church grows, they contribute to those finances as well. But I feel like we have more than adequate resources to cover the cost of rent, and knowing that Dexcom is fully behind us, we should have no problem at all.
So I'm just curious, there are a number of churches that have closed in the municipality. Would it not be maybe even cheaper to just buy one of those churches rather than pay rent?
No, ma'am. And so again, that actually kind of goes back to my point is that there's a lot of people nowadays that feel threatened by walking into a building that looks like a church. And so by walking into a neutral space type building, it serves as a very good on-ramp to reach people in this day and age. Because there's a lot of people that will never walk into a church building, but they'll walk into a community center, and they can experience Jesus there just the same way as they would in a church building. It doesn't have to look like a church, it doesn't have to be a church building, and in a lot of ways it really serves as a better ramp to reach people in this day and age. I believe, I believe we have to get back to the strategies of the 1st and 2nd century church, which is represented in the book of Acts, where they were going out and they were meeting people outside the 4 walls of the church. And so I really think that it's perfect for that. And that's why the other piece of that is as a new church body that's growing, we don't want to take on a mortgage right away. Eventually, as we grow and we maybe may get into other facilities, we might consider that. But at this point, we would just like to be in public spaces where we can expand and multiply in that way.
Thank you, Reverend.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Reverend Ryan,
Yes, ma'am.
what's your vision of longevity?
Longevity?
With regards to being at that property if it was decided?
Well, I mean, I see a long future with it, because one, I know that, my family and we are invested in that community. We've lived in that area for the last 22 years, and we plan on going nowhere. In fact, we just put an addition on our home so that we could stay there and work with our kids and stuff like that. So we don't plan on going anywhere. As far as the space and the property itself, I mean, I think that it'll just, I mean, the possibilities are endless. I mean, a community center is always something that's going to be needed, and even if we were to outgrow that space, I could still see us using that space, because really our vision is to be in multiple spaces throughout the community, not just in one place. And again, it kind of goes back to my idea that, I think that for a long time, people have grown into this thinking that a church is a physical address or a set of 4 walls. And we want to blow that away, and we want to tear down that barrier so that people can see that the church is everywhere. The church is, the people. It's the Spirit of God living in and out through the community. And so we think it has a great future. Even so much so that I've even started to kind of brainstorm with my wife on how we could take some of the spaces like the gymnasium and give them a coat of paint and transform them into a space that we could use for multi-purposes, such as a Sunday service, for small group gatherings, for events for the kids, and then also to do community meals and community dinners where we can invite people in. That's another thing too. I mean, for a long time, churches have tried to do community dinners, and the only people that come are church people. But in a community center like that, we could get all kinds of people to come in, and they can still be exposed to the love of Jesus just the same way. Again, I think it has a great number of possibilities for the future.
Yeah, and I have one more question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
What would your intent be? And I did hear you say this last time we were together, but what's your intent for the current tenants there?
The current tenants, we would want to minister to them, and we would want to love on them just as anybody else, So if they wanted to stay, that would be, I think initially it would be a benefit to us to help with the rent and the utilities and whatnot. But it would also give us the opportunity to minister to them and to love them, and for them to be exposed to what we're doing. So I would love them just the same as I love anybody else, So They're more than welcome to stay. In fact, we would encourage that, and it would be a great way to share the space together and learn to grow in relationship and learn how to work together. So,
Okay, thank you.
does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank you, Reverend.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I
Thank you very much.
add something real quick?
Yes, sir.
This is to the council, mainly. I'd like to make a motion that we put on the next agenda, Reverend Ryan Manners Church, to accept his proposal to take over the McKinley Center.
You making a motion?
Yes, I'm making a motion.
I second.
Seconded by Jim.
Unfortunately, under the new Act 65, you're no longer allowed to add things to the agenda.
For the next meeting?
Oh, for the next meeting, yes.
Next meeting, yes, I said the next meeting, the
I'm sorry, I
October
didn't hear
meeting.
that, Sean.
Yes, the next meeting.
But yes, you can do that if the public brings it up, yes.
Yes. So that was enough, Craig?
Yes.
Okay, so that was our motion. It was seconded by Jim Getzey.
We can have a vote?
Do we have a vote?
He wants to, for the next one, yes, we did. Not now, we're not voting on it now, we're not allowed to do that. Yeah, he wants, he just wants, or you can just direct the manager to do that. You don't have to have a motion to put something on the agenda, you can direct it.
I don't think we need to, I'm not sitting here as the solicitor, but I don't think we need to vote on that.
You can just direct the manager to put it on the agenda too, if nobody has an objection.
Okay, does anybody have an objection to it, to putting it on the agenda for next month?
I don't know yet. I think it's too soon. I mean, I'd like to get some more information. Now is not the time for that. I'm going to, this was just simply the 3-minute
Well, our
public
next
comment.
meeting is not until when? What's the date?
Yeah, so we have a month to think about that, almost a month.
I've thought it through, and I don't know why we would not agree.
Yeah, I
no
have too.
objection. I have no objection.
That's why I said we'd take a vote on it. How many people want it on the agenda for next meeting?
Well, I have a lot of questions. I mean, for example, we already have a CDC. I have no idea whether or not he's contacted the CDC. We're talking about taking a church and putting it in a municipal building. And I have no objection to your church, Reverend. I'm just saying I don't know that that's appropriate. And I don't think that this is the proper forum right now to do this. I think we have almost a month to look into this. Right now, this was a 3-minute public comment session. We always have the non-voting, we just had the non-voting meeting where the Reverend spoke. That's the time when we have back and forth with the public. I just don't think that's appropriate for tonight, and I'm not suggesting that that's precluding us from moving forward. We have about a month to talk about that. We have, I'd be happy to read anything you have. I'm not saying I have any objections. I'm just saying we had a 3-minute comment right here, and I have some legal questions. I just have a lot more questions. I'm just, that's my opinion. The request, the deadline has already passed for the request. That's probably a huge issue. And we still haven't had the Rotary come forward. I don't know where they are on this, that they may have decided not to move forward, but the Rotary had a very nice presentation. That's never come up for a vote.
Councilman Petrucci, I don't have any objections to it. However, Sean, you're with the Rotary, correct? No, you're not? Okay.
Jim Getzey's with the Rotary.
So they did do a very nice presentation, but did they fall off with it, or they finished, or?
You want to tell them, or you want me to tell them?
I don't want to speak for the Rotary without their knowledge. The Rotary is not that interested anymore, but that's just my offhand comment. And
Okay, that's fine. That's all I needed to know.
So under the new Act 65, there's only 3 exceptions that you're able to put something on the agenda, and one is if it's brought up in public comment. And if it is brought up in public comment, it can be referred to committee or placed on next month's agenda. In order to do that, under the Act 65, this agenda has to be amended to include the matter that you want to take action on and add it to the agenda for next month's agenda. So the process would be to first make a motion to amend the agenda, to place it on the agenda.
You want to do that?
And I don't even necessarily have an objection. I'm just saying, I think that just doesn't look, I think that has a bad look to it, that here we are under the new law, and already we're not going to give the public, I think we need transparency all across the board. Here we are, the very first council meeting where the new law is in effect, and already we're going to change something.
Reverend.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask you something.
Yes, sir.
I understand what we're trying to do, but would it be possible that, I don't know what your time schedule's like, I'd like to meet with you one-on-one if that's possible.
Absolutely, sir. Yeah, I would be more than happy to do so.
Okay, that would be good. And, you know, I don't see any reason, you know, why we can't discuss it.
Councilman Pecora, could you please speak into your microphone?
Yeah, sure, yeah. I don't think there's any reason why we can't discuss it, but I would like to meet with you if it's possible, if your schedule provides.
Absolutely, sir. I can
Okay.
make myself available for that, for
Okay,
sure.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Reverend.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure to
Thank
share again, so.
Thank you,
You just kind
Reverend.
of lead me, you know, how I need to go, or tell me what I
Thank
need
you
to do.
for your
so,
interest.
Thank you.
Appreciate your presentation, Reverend.
I'd like to move to number 7, the public hearing on the 2022-26 capital improvement program.
We'll now open the hearing to the public. I believe you have a presentation, Mr. Blackwell.
I can, if you like. Basically, the capital program that you have tonight, the charter requires that the capital improvements program be adopted in September of each year, the 9th month, meaning September. And the intent of the capital improvements program is that mayor and council adopt long-range goals and objectives for the future of the municipality, orderly future of the municipality. And that those goals and objectives are reflected in the capital improvements program. The capital improvements program has a list of items, basically more than a list, but it's the items that have a lifespan of more than 2 years. So these are capital improvements that the municipality would take on, be that street paving, vehicles, building improvements, anything that has a life of more than 3 years, and typically they're costly. The capital improvement program has evolved more recently since the manager became, Scott Enjak became manager. One of the first things he said to me, he says, you know, I think he was afraid that I'd be protective of the capital improvements program as it stood. And he said, you know, would you mind if we worked on the capital improvements program? And I said, yes, manager, Scott, I would like to do that. So he gave me a template. We worked with that, and you'll notice that the front page, the capital improvements program for the department heads, for many years, it was really just a wish list that we put out, and there wasn't a whole lot of activity. Even the department heads were a little, you know, oh yeah, Chris, you got to make this plan. I understand every year. Well, in the last couple of years, they've realized the importance of the capital improvements program. And I think the front page of the current program, if you look at it, it's different than it used to be in that the top columns actually show the funding sources, be that grants, the general fund, various grants, liquid fuels, things like that. Then the second columns on the front page are the department, each department and the list of projects. And there's a story to be told there, in that if you look at the capital improvements program, you'll see that the funding sources are $33 million, and the request from the department heads is $43 million. There's a pretty big gap. So it tells the story, like I say, in that it allows mayor and council to say, boy, we either have to get on our department heads to go after more grants. We need to fund the capital improvement program more. And this year was unusual in that we had this stimulus. And one of the great things about the capital improvements program that Scott had said to me, he had a mentor many years ago, and he said, you need to make a plan because you never know, and he said this to me 3 years ago. He says, you need to make a plan because you never know when money's going to come along, right? So here we are, come the stimulus money, and we're sitting there going, yeah, here we go. So I think it's important too that this plan, this was, I start many months ago. So with stimulus money, we started maybe March, April, sat down with every department head. Typically, I do this in June and July, August, and we really work through with each department head. And you'll find that they make a list of the things that are needed. And in this case, sanitary sewers, it's a page and a half. There's a lot of things. The director of water pollution control, Jen Cohn, has a lot of requests, a lot of need. And in this case, we have stormwater needs, and in this case, the stimulus money, as you know, has been, originally when we first found out about the stimulus money, we all sat down and we had all kinds of things everybody wanted. And as the regulations came out, it got narrower and the focus got narrower to really what we have today. And I think the manager pointed it out last month very well of what we can do and what the intent is. So this capital improvements program now has it has all of the items that department heads need. You'll see in later pages it has the fleet rotation plan. That was not included before, where it actually shows how many all the vehicles that we own are listed there. I think there's a few like Toros and some vehicles that mowing machines, things that aren't there, but it has front loaders, backhoes, dump trucks, police cars, and when they need to be replaced. And you might have looked at that, and I don't know if you looked at that closely, but you'll see that there's like patrol cars are replaced every 3 years. Maybe investigation, those kind of cars are replaced every 5. Those are things that's where I say like this capital improvements program. There's a lot in there to see if you look into it, and I'd be glad to help find things in there if you like. Another thing that we had is that we had residents where when we got the multimodal grant, there were residents that put out a chart and they said these are the wow, this is great. We're going to spend $1 million a year on streets. Well, back in 2016, we only spent $100,000 on streets, or in 17 we spent $300,000. I'm thinking, why are they saying that? They were actually here in the room when Mayor and Council awarded $700,000 in streets to a contractor. And I realize it's because when you look at the actual budget, street paving is taken out of many different line items. It's maybe at least 4 or 5 different places. So what the capital improvements program does is you can actually look at it and go, under public works, street reconstruction or street paving, there it is, 1.3 million a year. It's right there, with the exception of CDBG, which I could put up there, but we've kind of traditionally we've kept CDBG separate. So I think the capital improvements program is a vast improvement over how it's been. It lists all the projects that our department directors have requested. I think it's easy to follow, and we improve it. Scott and I and the department directors improve it every year, and that's basically the the planning department recommends that you approve it. Later on, there's going to be a resolution on your agenda, and we hope that you approve it tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, it's open to any. At this time, we'll open the floor to any public comment. This would be public comment specific to the proposed 5-year capital improvement plan.
With there being no public comment at this time, I would like to, in the interest of full disclosure, let you know that Howard Davison, who was the predecessor to Mr. Blackwell, he did reach out to us. He spoke last week at our non-voting meeting. He spoke at length, and he did reach out to us, though, and asked that we not vote on this tonight because he can't be present. However, as I understand, my reading of the charter is that we've got to pass something in the 9th month, so that would be right now. And I would just like to ask for the record, because it's my understanding, and I would like to ask the solicitor if he can clarify this. So if we were to pass this resolution tonight, and let's say that Mr. Davidson or anybody else came forward with an idea or a change and we would like it. Are we permitted by law to amend this at some point in the future?
I know of no reason why you can't amend a resolution. In my opinion, any resolution is able to be amended. If you see something you want to allocate funds to down the road, you can, just like your budget can be amended from time to time to move one line on to another. So absolutely, it can be amended.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that because out of respect for Mr. Davidson, I would like to honor his wishes, but to be in compliance with the Home Rule Charter, I don't think we can hold off. Having said that, any public comment? Any comment from council?
I have a comment. My comment would not prevent me from signing this, but I think some of the wording in the, is nebulous. Like, I think the most example is saying,
Councilman Getzey, could you please move the
Oh,
microphone closer?
sure.
Thank you.
I think some of the wording in the resolution is not strong enough. Like, mostly, it says things should be done. I think it will be done is more appropriate, because should is kind of maybe yes and maybe no. Other than that, I have highlighted some of the things. I'll turn it over to Chris, and it won't affect anything, because I think the intent is there, even if the bureaucrat in me is challenging some of the wording. It's not even a challenge, it's a mention. Thank you.
Any further question or comments from council?
I have a comment, Mayor.
Thank you,
Just
Deputy
want to
Mayor.
say to Chris and your department, I think you do a wonderful job, and over the years and looking at that capital plan, you know, I came in asking about that capital plan, and you took the time to show it to me and explain it to me, and I always thought it looked good, and I just think that now it's just getting better, because it's always looked good. Even in the description, it was very, we can comprehend it easy. It was very friendly, and now I just think that you're just perfecting it even the more. So I just want to say good job, and thank you for making it even more friendly, because it was always good.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Councilman Pecora, any question or comment?
I'll have to agree with the deputy mayor. Great job. Great job.
Councilman Petrucci, any
Thank you.
question or comment?
No, I looked it over, and
Yeah.
you did a good job, Chris.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Glad both did.
And the
I
department
have-
heads, excuse me, I'm sorry, I do interrupt, but the department heads, even the verbiage in the descriptions, you know, I can't describe sanitary sewers the way Jen can, right? So I start out with an outline, and I send it to the John Scaglione and Janet. I send it to everybody, and they help me understand. And so I just want to say that I can't take all the credit. It really is a group effort with department heads and the manager and myself. Thank you.
We do
the
have
nice
some good
comments.
directors, yeah.
So I just have a question and I have a comment, and you sort of maybe beat me to it, but that was my question. As I understand the process, you conferred with each and every department head, did you not, to ask what their wants or needs are?
Yes, we start this kind of early on. I think it's almost a precursor. Sherry, sends out for the operating budget for each department. That's required August 31st. So I kind of get out there, speaking with Sherry and the department heads, even June, July. Like I say, this year it started in March, but we meet with each department head. Sherry and I met with the department heads early March, April. Yes, we meet with them, we discuss their needs, and then that's what goes into this capital program. And then also the way it's set up now, it's a Excel spreadsheet where I lock the formulas, but the department heads, they can either ask me to do it or they do it, where they actually type in the description, the dollars, and it automatically fills up at the top. So we're trying to make it so they see also, wow, I'm asking for that kind of money. They get to really see it also. But I think it's definitely, to answer your question, yes, we consult with each department head. And these are, I think there was some question last week even, where there's residents, they've voiced their opinions about the stimulus funding, things like that. And sometimes there's some projects that people would like to see. They feel that this is an opportunity to spend money on things that they wouldn't normally spend them on, But I think when given that question, when asked that of, say, John Scaglione, the Parks Director, he's been asking for things like a splash pad for many years. and it's in there. And then what might have been a surprise, it was on the manager, Scott Andrzejczyk's presentation, was picnic tables. And you think like, man, can there be something more exciting? And, but actually, that's what he needs. Like,
Yeah.
and so yes, we met with each department head, and these are the things they really need. And then, say for water pollution control, nobody knows that system like Jen. She goes through every single item. She knows it's expensive. She knows she's asking the manager and the mayor and council for a lot, but it's in there.
So that answers my question. I thank you. And my comment is, I sometimes think the public might not realize how much work goes into this. So although we sit up here as elected officials and we get to sign off or vote on this, please do know that we certainly recognize that you are paid professionals. I'm very, very proud of the department heads. I'm very proud of our administrators here in Penn Hills. And I thank you so much because I know a lot of work went into this.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I don't know if it was that great, but no, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, hearing no other comment, we can close the public hearing.
May I get a motion for Resolution 8A?
I'll make a motion for Resolution 8A, approve the 2022 MMOs for police and non-uniform pension plans.
May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comment from the public? Any comment from council? Roll call.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Councilman Pecora,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci.
Yes.
8A approved.
May I get a motion for 8B?
I'll make a motion for 8B,
Thank you.
approve Resolution 2021-37, approving the plan revision for development at 10604 Frankstown Road.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Comment.
Any public comment?
This is for a car wash, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, that was going to be my question. What's it for? Can someone just explain it?
This is for car wash, right?
The 10604 was formerly the Churchill Center,
Right.
and it was demolished. I mean, I'm sorry, it was demolished. It burned in a
Burned.
fire, and so it was in effect demolished. But this is Mod Wash. It's a car wash.
Right.
There's one located in Wilkins Township at this time.
Mhm.
They've gone to the zoning hearing board, they've been to the planning commission, and their building permit is in code enforcement at this time being reviewed. And they met with all of our needs, and it's ready to go. So this is something, because they're using not too much water, they're using more water than the previous use.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Councilman Pecora,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey.
Yes.
8B approved.
May I get a motion for 8C?
I'll make a motion for 8C, approve Resolution 2021-38, awarding a contract to Liberoni Incorporated for the 2021 CDBG Street Reconstruction Program in the amount of $214,798.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any comment from council?
I have one comment. If anybody didn't read this, it's for Bramble Street, Hill Street, and Railroad Street. Those are the ones that are going to be paved.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilman Pecora,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci,
Yes.
Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Item 8C approved.
May I get a motion for item 8D?
I'll make a motion for 8D, approve Resolution 2021-39, adopting the 5-year capital improvement plan for 2022 to 2026.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comment from the public? Any comment from council? I would just like to reiterate that certainly we could always amend the resolution if need be, if Mr. Davidson or anybody needed to come forward at a later date. Roll call, please.
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci.
Yes.
Councilman Getzey.
Yes, yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Councilman Pecora.
Yes.
Item 8D approved.
Thank you. May I get a motion for item 8E?
I'll make a motion for item 8E, approve resolution 2021-40 authorizing the submission of a recycling program grant to the Department of Environmental Protection for the purchase of a leaf waste recycling, maintenance, and collection equipment.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? Thank you. Any comment from council?
One question.
Mayor,
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I would just like to ask a question. I thought we had one, so will this make two? Will this
That's-
make the second one that we'll have?
Scott?
Second.
Second, leaf vac.
This is the second vac we have? We
No.
have one already. We
This is
already
for,
bought one,
This
right?
is for a front loader, a backhoe, and a dump truck.
Oh, so it's different.
Is there, when I say leaf it's like leaf maintenance equipment, that's for the grant.
Oh, okay.
You know, I could say like,
Okay.
I'm trying to convince DEP that a dump truck is used for leaves, and it is.
It's creative
you know.
writing.
But I also want to point out that this is a $423,000 purchase. The match is 50/50. Sounds significant, 200-some thousand dollars. But also, the dump truck we already bought for $140,000. So 70,000 of that, this is a matching grant, so 70,000 of the, say, 200,000 that we would be paying has already been paid. You've already spent it and authorized it. So I try to work with the all the things that I can to make our contribution as easy to swallow as possible.
Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Petrucci, did you have a question?
No, I was thinking the same thing as Deputy Mayor Sapp. I believe we already approved a leaf,
Yeah,
Hey.
we have we've approved garbage,
Yeah,
compactors.
compactor, that's what it was, yeah.
Tub grinders, it's an ongoing thing, but these are pieces of equipment that, it's not a stretch. They're used to turn the
Right.
rows at the compost site. They're used to pull down larger trees, it's work for the Public Works Department. It makes it safer. And then also, this is equipment that we've purchased some time ago, and they do have a lifespan. So there is a point where we'd rather replace it now when the directors are asking for it, rather than when then it all falls on us and it's a later purchase.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Petrucci.
Yes.
Councilman Getzey.
Yes,
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Councilman Pecora.
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes.
Item 8E approved.
May I get a motion for 8F?
I'll make a motion for 8F, approve consent order and agreement with Allegheny County Health Department and authorize municipal manager and solicitor to sign.
May I get a second? Sometime tonight.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mayor. I'll second that. I apologize. I was thinking about my question.
Thank you. Okay, any public comment? Any comment from council?
Madam Mayor, I have a question. Gateway Engineering, can you explain this for us, please? Mr. Minsterman?
Yes. Hello, Mayor and Council. Basically, this is a new consent order that's being issued to all of the municipalities served by Alcosan. It's follow-up to the several consent orders that have happened since 2004. This particular order, which they're asking be signed and executed by October 31st of this year, has been negotiated for the past 3 years. I was personally on the committee with Three Rivers representatives to negotiate and work with DEP over that 3-year period in an attempt to try to make the orders as palatable as possible for the municipalities. The first version of this order from DEP was quite scary. So it looks at 2 different aspects of the sewage systems and the issues that are causing the problem at the treatment plant, as well as overflows that are impairing our streams as the sewage overflows go into the stream and harm the water quality. The two aspects are, one, when it rains, the systems leak, stormwater and groundwater leak into the system, and then they surcharge the system and overflow, as well as that large volume of mixed sewage and groundwater inundating the sewage treatment plant. Many times they stop treatment and just allow the sewage to flow through the plant, and just to protect the plant from flooding. So that obviously, no treatment is a bad situation. So that's been going on since Alcosan built the plant back in the 50s. So these are attempts by the DEP and the health department to have the municipalities contribute to solving that problem. Now, Alcosan went and did a massive update to their sewage treatment facility. They've also updated many of their sewer interceptors. I mean, these things were 3 foot in diameter, now they're 12 feet in diameter, right? Big upgrades. But it still needs the municipalities to reduce the leaking into the sewers. So, as I mentioned, one is related to when it rains, and that's usually a short duration but a massive inflow of sewage. And the second aspect is what's called groundwater infiltration, and it's 24/7, 365 days a year when the groundwater table leaks into the sanitary sewer and generates a massive volume over time. So you've got this infinity factor of, an inch or 2 or 3 in the sewer line that is just groundwater. So once again, creating a massive volume for treatment at the treatment plant. So even with the updates that Alcosan has made, it's still not enough. There's still too many overflows, too much contamination of sewage into the streams, which ultimately go to the rivers, which are drinking water sources for many communities. So ultimately, this order gives us 6 years to identify the worst parts of, the worst aspects of infiltration and inflow into our system, and then design projects to stop those. So this order would then, it gives specific criteria of what goals to meet. The unit of measure is weird, but it's gallons per inch mile per day, so that we have those goals to meet from the groundwater infiltration perspective, as well as a reduction of overflows by 10%. So we don't have to eliminate the overflows that we're contributing to. We have to at least reduce them by 10%. So those are all specific projects. So, however, this is very difficult to find out where, think of all the sewers are underground. There's hundreds of miles of sewers, and we have to figure out where sections of the sewers are leaking most. We can't fix 100% of the system. It would be $100 million. So we have to go through engineering studies, analysis, flow monitoring, flow isolation, smoke testing, a whole series of engineering techniques to try to identify the segments that are leaking most, and then design projects to reduce or eliminate that infiltration and inflow. So that's the order. Everyone has the same set of rules. There are 83 municipalities that have the order as well. This is not singling out any one municipality. It's a regional problem that they're asking everyone to chip in and meet that requirement. So just to end that discussion, one of the things I was thinking of doing when we give our year-end presentation is to come in, review that order in a little more detail, also to show you where you stand as it relates to the guidelines and the limitations that they're asking you to limit the amount of infiltration that goes into your system. So it's broken up, it breaks the community out into several sewer sheds. So we'd go through those sewer sheds and show where you're in good shape, show you where you're in rough shape, and start talking about that schedule of how to proceed to comply with that order. So we usually come in November or December to give that year-end presentation. This order, breaking down this order, would be a big part of that presentation this year.
So let me ask you this question. So you said 10% over how many years?
We have 5 years to do it. 10% reduction on the overflows themselves with a 1-year monitoring period to show how well we did.
So we have 5 years to get it down to 10%.
Yes, to reduce 10%.
Reduce it 10% on the overflow.
Of the overflow. And then to meet the limitations for the groundwater infiltration.
And
So
we
there's
have
two
no idea
components.
where this groundwater infiltration is coming from, though.
No, that's right. That is.
Or what sewer
That's
lines
the tough
leaking.
part, exactly.
So
That's the tough part to
eventually,
single that out.
this is going to end up costing us money,
This could be very expensive,
again.
yes. Yes, and I believe that this, once, essentially, without getting in too much into it, next year and say half of 2023 will be to identify these locations and projects. And then 23 and 24 will be when the projects will be implemented to stop the I&I. That should line up with some stimulus funding at that time. So that is going to come in handy at that point.
Now, let me ask you this, maybe, I see Jennifer in the back. The equalizer tanks that are at Sandy Creek, I know there's some problems with them. Could that possibly, do something with those tanks to make this a little bit, because I know that flow goes right through there and it goes right down out at Sandy Creek and makes a left onto ARB. Would that help the situation if we put some money into that building?
The overflows themselves, or I should say the overflows, the 10% reduction can be through equalization, which means
Right.
capture the 10%, put it in a
Put-
tank,
exactly.
then release it slowly back, because the idea is to cut that peak, the peak flow that generates the SSO.
And those tanks need repair, repaired anyhow.
They do need repair. One is actually failing.
Failing, right, I know.
The roof is failing and needs replaced or repaired. But the issue is those tanks are somewhat maximized already. So it's probably, without making the tanks bigger, we won't see much of an impact from those tanks. Now, the tanks have to continue to function as they were designed, which is repairing the roof. That is why that's emergent in nature. But that doesn't mean that we wouldn't add a tank or add
That's
a
what I was
part
gonna
to
say,
the
add a
tank.
tank.
Sometimes that's less expensive. Just acknowledge the flow, capture it, cut it off from the peak, which means when everything's flooding, and then release it later. So that is certainly a technique that will be evaluated.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, put another tank, because
Yeah.
we have plenty of ground down there where we could add another tank to it. Okay.
Yep.
Very good, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Minsterman, we don't really have a choice, right? We have to approve this.
That's right.
Yeah.
The other aspect is because it's been negotiated over the past 3 years, through the solicitors group, through the engineers group, there's been meetings with managers and elected officials, or at least offerings of that. There's no negotiation in the order at this point. That was the purpose of that, so that now the orders can be executed. Otherwise, they would be argued by municipalities for years. So this is the DEP's not allowing negotiations. If you don't sign it, you will get a consent decree to sign it.
We don't want that.
I have a question. How often will we get a report on the updates? So.
Yeah, that could be any frequency that you want. Most of what we do is work hand in hand with the Water Pollution Control Department and Ms. Cohn specifically, but certainly we would welcome your input and your interest. A lot of boards don't care, they just say fix it, but certainly if you had the interest, we'd love to come, and we could do a written monthly summary of recent activities, planned activities, and issues, which means those are like the there's an issue. So certainly we have an actual format for that report that if you're interested, we could certainly provide that on a monthly basis.
I'd like to suggest that, being the council of one over here, I would hope that the other council would agree that I would like to have that report given to us, just so that we can stay on top of it for Penn Hills. I mean, there's 83 municipalities, but it seems like the guidelines are not going to really be equal, right? I mean, I know there's a foundation of guidelines, but it doesn't seem like, because they're municipalities, boroughs, townships, right? They're all different, so.
The
for
guidelines
Penn
are the
Hills.
same. What happens is some communities are, for whatever reason, fortuitous or not, in better shape than others. You know, sometimes the system can be badly broken, but if it sits high up above the water table, then the water can't leak in. And sometimes systems are in really good shape, but they're 20 feet below the water table, and the pressure of the water forces itself in. So there's not a lot of reasoning. You can't pinpoint, oh, it's this type of sewer or that. It's not the condition. It's not because the water table goes up and down. So even where the water table is today is not where it will be next month. So there's a lot of variety, a lot of complexity to it. So the guidelines and the standards are all the same, but for example, some community may be 10 times what the guideline is, and one may be 0.5 times the guideline, right? So somebody's got to go this far to get there, and some communities will have to go that far. So it just depends on where the individual sewer shed stands. That's why I thought at our year-end presentation, we would talk about every sewer shed and where you stand. Are you real far above the standard? Are you just above it? You might be below it in certain cases.
Yeah, that's good. I just think it's so ironic how the stimulus money came right at this time. So, yeah, I would love to have that monthly report. Thank
Good.
you.
I was going to say that. That's a good
Thank you. Roll call, please. Oh, sure.
I did want to, just as a point, we received this rather late in the preparation of the agenda, and it appears on the agenda as an approval, and I'm asking council and mayor to approve it tonight. But the actual document requires that there be a resolution approving it, and so that it doesn't appear on our agenda as a resolution. So I think it's appropriate to vote on tonight, but then next month you're going to be seeing it again as a resolution. So that's why you're going to see it again in October,
Okay.
so that we can put a resolution with the documents.
No problem.
Okay, just so everyone
So
knows.
we're just changing the verbiage? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, we're approving the consent order and agreement, but if you read the consent order and agreement on paragraph 32, it requires that we submit with it a resolution as well. And so this isn't being done as a resolution, and it probably should have been. So we could do the resolution next month because we have until the 31st to sign it. So but I think the fact that it was introduced and there was discussion and approval.
I actually think that you can do it as, you can make it into a resolution.
You can do that? That would be good too.
It's on the agenda.
Okay,
It's
is that good enough?
on the agenda. There's multiple case law that says
Okay.
motions and resolutions are identical. Just
Okay,
put it into resolution form in the morning, and the mayor will
if
sign
that's
it.
acceptable, that's what I'll do.
So just vote on it.
That makes it easier. Okay. Councilman Getzey,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Councilman Pecora,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilman Petrucci.
Yes.
Item 8F approved.
May I get a motion for item, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Introduction.
Item 8A is an introduction of ordinance 2021-2686. Last week, we had a discussion here about a proposed amendment of our 2021 budget that requires an ordinance to do that. So in the materials is a draft of what that budget amendment would look like if council takes that up next month.
So we can move to reports?
You can move the reports.
Okay.
Can I have-
Deputy-
Can I raise a question on that?
Yes, Councilman Getzey.
This is 2021-2686?
Yeah.
And we are not going to, can I make some comments about that this evening? Or are you going to just wait till next month and let another month go by?
Are you asking me?
Yes. Okay.
You certainly can ask a question.
All right. It's more than a question, it's a statement. I've been going through the stimulus regulations. They're overwhelming. They are subject to interpretation, and they're very difficult to read. But with my background of reading the Federal Register, I plowed through it, and I have some comments and questions. Number one, random comments I've heard. We have different impressions of what this is going to be. I notified the manager that I was concerned that this council has not even discussed this, in which case I was threatened for violating the Sunshine Act of Pennsylvania. I don't think I violated the Sunshine Act by asking the question, because there's four criterion you have to meet to violate the Sunshine Act, neither of which I met, which generally say you're going to arrive at some conclusion or understanding. What bothers me is that the complexity of these regulations is open to such different interpretation and attitude and what we intend to do in the future, how we're going to use it, that without any kind of discussion about this, which is now being put off for a month, time is going by and it's getting closer to when we're going to have to make these expenditures. So in looking at this, I've decided this. I would like to have an opinion of council to say that what our plan is going to plan is in conformance with the regulations for the stimulus grant. I don't intend to vote for that grant if I don't have an opinion from a legal source confirming that we and whatever we put together is in conformance with the regulations. And so, having looked at things like this through my entire career, I can't remember where we haven't passed anything or implement anything where we haven't had a legal determination. I say this stimulus regulations are so convoluted that administratively, I say we will probably never achieve any uniform agreement on this. And I don't think we could pass this thing without knowing what we're passing and what the limitations are. There's an area in there which is pages long, which just the tax repercussions from this. I made some notes here. I won't go through all of them, but I'm really concerned about this. I wish it had been on agenda tonight. I hate to see another month pass before we deal with it officially, but I have my comments, and I would like to have our decisions based on a legal interpretation and conclusion. Thank you.
I'd like to move to item number 9, council reports. Deputy Mayor, do you have any report?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. Just have a short list. Just want to say that the street lights throughout Penn Hills are looking really good. There were a lot of light bulbs out, and it looks like they've all been replaced, and I love seeing all of the streets that were dark now light. And I want to just say, encourage you that if you see any of those lights out, please report it ASAP so that we can get those bulbs in. It's also budget time, so this is the time of year I love. I know, Sherry, you don't, but but I do. And I would just want to say thank you in advance to Sherry and Scott and to all the departments for the diligence and the committed work that you're going to put in. I know how that goes, and I certainly look forward to working with you both again this year. It's like really my favorite time of year to come up and talk, and I learned so much, and I know that you're going to do a good job. Last year was amazing. We had that surplus, and I'm looking forward to even a little bit more this year. So stay encouraged, right? I'll send you some fruit or something. Well, thank you in advance. And also, just want to remind everybody that, COVID-19 is not going, it hasn't gone away. The Delta variant is out, right? So I just want to encourage all of our Penn Hills residents, please mask up when you need to mask up. Keep your hands sanitized. When soap and water is available, make sure you wash your hands, okay? We want to keep all of our residents safe. So it's not gone. Hospitals are full. I was talking with Councilman Pecora just before the meeting, and Forbes and Monroeville, they were literally shut down because there was no more room. So I just want to let you know that it's not gone. And even though you're vaccinated, you can still catch it, right? You just won't get it as bad, so research says. But we have had some residents who have unfortunately passed away. So just make sure that you mask up, and when soap and water is available, please wash your hands, because we love you guys.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And then again, of course, going alphabetically to the councilman. Councilman Getzey, do you have any reports?
Any reports?
No, that was it.
No.
Thank you. Councilman Pecora, do you have a report?
No, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Getzey, do you have a report? I'm sorry, Councilman Petrucci, do you have a report?
I just want to say congratulations to Faith Milazzo and the Penn Hills Anti-Litter Group in conjunction with the Rosedale Civic Association. They picked up 80 bags of litter over on Saturday, September 18th, with the Garbage Olympics. Bill Moots, of course, was there also, and his lovely wife Maureen. So want to thank everybody that contributed into that litter pickup. It was great. So thank you all.
Can we clap for them, because it was on the news this morning at 5:30 that Penn Hills won. Congratulations.
Thank you. I would also like to once again congratulate and truly, truly say thank you to Bill and Maureen Mounts. Thank you so much, because this is what these are the good things about Penn Hills. And I would like to again recognize our really, really professional and hardworking staff. We're looking at 3 financial pictures, so to speak. This is all going on at the same time. We've got the capital improvement, the 5-year capital improvement plan. We've got the stimulus, and we've got the budget going on. With all due respect to Councilman Getzey, I mean, that's what we're doing. Every time we come to these meetings, we're crafting this and shaping it. These issues always come up at every meeting. That's at the heart of what we're doing here. And so I would like to thank the staff for such hard work. Really, please know that it's recognized. With that having been said, I'd like to make a motion for an adjournment.
Make a motion, we adjourn the meeting, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening, everyone.
You too.
We're so adjourned.